Hello everybody and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic, doing well, and today my voice still sounds like trash, so thank you again for bearing with me as I wait for my voice to recover. But before going into this bit of news about Disney's film Luca getting a China release, please make sure that you smash the like button, light up that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey, and make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with that bell notification turned on. That way you know every time a new video or live stream goes live onto the channel. So as you can see from this news over on Deadline, it looks like the blackout of Disney releases has finally finished. And no, it is not for films that have already been released that are in desperate need of making money. No, it is not a future Disney release, which, because of a massive budget, is going to be in desperate need of making money. Oh no, instead, it's the film Luca, which was released for free on Disney Plus, and to this date has not made any money, which again is kind of it's a bit of a story, and it's a bit of a trend with Disney films lately. This is a film actually where it's almost impossible to find any real indication of how much money this film cost. And to this point, I still cannot find any actual clarification or any statement about how much this film actually cost. I assume once it gets released in August, I think on August 20th or so in China, we might start to hear about how much this film costs, because Lord knows that they're going to be reporting how much money or how little money it makes in China. It's really hard to say. From what I've been told from people who have seen this movie actually was pretty good. It was not it's not one of the best Disney Pixar films ever to be made, but it's definitely not like any of the other garbage that's being pushed. In fact, this film was in fact being attacked by a lot of people who are politically motivated, because people were not liking the fact that these two male characters are just friends in the movie, and it's just establishment of a good story of friendship. And there were a lot of people mad that there was not a romantic attachment, which again is kind of sick when you think about it, seeing that we're dealing with, again, child characters here. But again, that's kind of the world that we live in today, where that's the kind of nonsense that people are trying to push. And so I've heard actually that the story is pretty fun and is something where it's mostly just not offensive, and it's just really a good time, which also makes me scratch my head, because I'm looking at all of the movies that Disney has been putting out over the last year. And it's interesting that the two best films that they have actually really put out over the last year and a half were both released for free on Disney Plus. One of them being Luca, which again, I have not seen for myself, but I've heard good things from subscribers on the channel and from others. And then the other one is the movie Soul, which I actually personally really enjoyed as well. And that movie was also released on Disney Plus for free, and therefore was a massive financial bust, because even though they did have a minor theatrical release, it was not anywhere near being able to make back its over $100+ million budget. And that's one of the issues that I think Disney is going to be in with all of its films going forward, because even though we don't know what the official production budget for Luca is, there is no doubt that this film cost at least $100 million to make, because that has been the standard by which Disney has put out animated films for the past several years. The films have always cost at the very least $100 million, usually upwards of $200 million, which means that this film is set to be a massive $150+ million loss for Disney, because even though, as we can see from this news, that it's going to get a release date in China, and maybe this is an indication that some of the other Disney films set to come out later this year might also be able to secure a China release. This is still something where it's pointing to the problem, the fact that they're not going to be able to get a lot of money from China, because no matter how much money they make in China proper, they only get about 25% of the box office receipts because of the deals they have to make with the Chinese Communist Party. And so it's one of those things where it might be kind of signaling some good news for Disney, because they can finally start to, in some of their films, maybe like Shang-Chi coming out, or other films like The Eternals, or maybe actually securing a China release for a film like Black Widow as well, in any kind of clear way, to try and balloon the numbers and try and make it seem like the numbers are better than what they actually are. But again, one of the reasons why I like to do these kinds of videos is to point out that you can have a high number in China, but it doesn't always tell the full story. Case in point, Fast and Furious 9 has made over $200 million in China, but the studio has only seen about $50 million from that, because of the 25% cut that the studios get from the Communist Party in China. And adding on top of that, it just goes to show you that Disney is still more than willing to work with the Chinese communists. And I think that is something that all of us also need to keep in mind, and also need to hold Disney's feet to the fire as well. So even though I personally actually really do want to give Luca a shot, because I've heard so many good things about it and how it's a very unoffensive film, it's again not one of the greatest of stories as far as all the stories and the history of stories put out by Pixar especially, but it's at least a film that is going to be entertaining. It's a film, and it's sad that Disney is treating the films that are actually good and really seem to lack any sense of identity politics, that they're putting those movies out for free and essentially guaranteeing them to be financial losses. All the while they are pushing all their propaganda films out front and still losing money. It'd almost be like, and be sensible for them to push out their really good movies to get good, really good word of mouth and actually make a little bit of money potentially, or at least not lose as much money, and then save their woke stuff for Disney Plus, because they're going to lose money on those projects anyway. But again, I digress there. Let's just go ahead and dive into this first part of the story. As it says, Disney's Pixar sea monster story, Luca, has been granted an August 20th release date in China, signaling that the end of the giant market's latest unofficial blackout period may be afoot. While Luca will be a prime slot amid a series of local holdovers and is the first Hollywood studio title to release since June, its date also comes at a time when about 30% of cinemas are closed in the market due to a COVID surge, as the box office overall has been muted there. Last week, movie theaters reset capacity limits to 75% in low-risk areas, and those in medium and high-risk areas were closed. Presumed local blockbuster The Battle at Lake Changjin subsequently postponed its August 12th release date. So for those that are not aware, China does have this unofficial blackout period where it does not allow pretty much any Western films to be shown, and it tries to give more credence and more focus onto local homegrown films. However, because of the various closures of theaters in the country, even the local homegrown movies really aren't doing that well because of the capacity limits over there. And so that's a part of the equation. But we also know that there has been this tension between China and Disney because there have not been release dates or even official release dates for some of the films that they have set to come out in the future, and also some of the other films that came out during this blackout period. You know, we've been told that there is going to be some type of release of Black Widow and other films like it in the coming months, but we have not actually gotten official release dates up to this point. As far as this video being filmed, and that obviously shows that there is this tension. Now, for me, I think it's good for there to be a tension between any company and any person, for that matter, and the Chinese Communist Party. But obviously, they're looking at this as just a way to try and make money. And to be honest, though, it's not even really about making money, because as I've kind of already pointed out, it's kind of this red herring. You know, it's one of those things where the number looks really high a lot, but the actual return on their investment is not as high. So it's almost like Disney and other big companies like Warner Brothers, etc., and Warner Brothers themselves actually just inked a deal with China as well. So that's another thing that's going on. But basically, it's almost like a way of trying to inflate their numbers to make it seem like their films are very successful. But when you actually break down the numbers, you realize, oh, actually, it's not as successful because the Chinese Communist Party gets a huge take of any of the films that get released into mainland China. But anyway, I wanted to share this bit of news because, again, I've heard that Luca is mostly not offensive and is a pretty good story and a pretty good time. It's a film that I'd be willing to give a shot to, but it just also goes to show the bigger story that Disney is still working with China, and that because they do have an official release date for this film, Luca, we expect, I assume, the next few days and weeks for us to hear about release dates of some of their other films. And it continues to show that no matter what comes out about China, whether it's the Uyghur concentration camps or, the several other human rights violations, that these big studios are going to be more than willing to work with these terrible, terrible people, all to try and not even really make money, but at least to have the perception that they are making money. And I think that is something that we should probably be a little bit sick about. But what are your thoughts about this? Have you seen Luca? Do you recommend Luca? Let me know in the comment section. Also, what are your thoughts in general about Luca getting a release date in China? It's not going to help the film all that much because it's only made about $30 million or so, because it has been released in some markets, and $30 million on a film that probably cost at least $100 million to make. And the fact that they're not going to make pretty much anything, even if they have a huge number in China, the 25% cut's going to pretty much do away with any net profits that they could possibly or potentially have seen there, is not really spelling good news for it. But it's sad. It really is sad that the really good films that Disney is putting out, or at the very least the okay films that Disney is putting out, are just getting shafted onto Disney Plus while all their films that they are putting out into theaters, which are really not that good or are filled with random, political messaging and everything like that, are the ones getting full focus and still losing money for Disney. So let me know your thoughts about that as well. You guys are great. Make sure you smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching on Odyssey. Thank you again for bearing with me with my voice. You guys are amazing. Have a wonderful day, everybody. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my August Locals, Patreon, and Subscribe Star members. Starting off with my Locals crew: Cat's App, The Real It, D Sharp, Biffer the Hobbit, Robert Barnes, and Goblin Squatch. Thank you all very much for supporting me over on Locals. And now on to my Patreon members: Andrew Hoyle, Brian P., Christopher Bowman, Dion, Don Bruno de la Mancha, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father. Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, Harold Francis, Inflamed Wood, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toone, Jonathan Carney, Lance, Laura, the Modern Major General's Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mondo Spieler, Mr. Peabody, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Priscilla Hall, Rosetta Allen, Teresa Martin, Theodore Benden, Tina Bojan, and Tina B., the Empress of the Universe. Thank you very much for supporting me over on Patreon. And lastly, to my Subscribe Star peeps: Fast Reaction, Nosferatu Gatsu, John B., Perpetual Punster, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / the new number 2, J-Rod the Beer Guru, and ZK Man. Thank you all very much for supporting me on Subscribe Star, and to everyone for supporting me on these platforms. Also, a shout out to all of my YouTube members. You get shouted out at the end of every single live stream. And if you want to have your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and every video, please check out my Locals Patreon Subscribe Star. And you can go ahead and find those links in the top link of this description. You can find it's called the Willow link, and it'll have a list to literally all of the social media platforms and all of the different ways that you can support the channel. If you join at the $1 level, you can actually get your name shouted out at the end of every single video and live stream. $5 level gives you that, plus you get access to exclusive giveaways of 4K titles. Right now, I've got tons of 4K steelbooks to give away this month, including for Top Gun. I also have A Quiet Place Part 2. I have Snatch on 4K, the John Wick trilogy on 4K, and also I have a Sicario 4K disc as well, and a bunch of others that are going to be coming in this month too. So if you want to have access to any of those types of exclusive giveaways, join at the Army of Asgard level. At the $10 level, the Keeper of the Bifrost level, you get all of that, plus you get access to exclusive behind-the-scenes videos, including instant reactions when I go to see movies. I do quick little filmings of myself and talk about the films that I have seen and my instant reactions to that. You also get access to an exclusive podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger once or twice a month, and you get to also ask us any question that you want. We put a Q&A post up, and you get to ask us whatever it is that you want to ask. So again, if that sounds cool to you, Keeper of the Bifrost level. And lastly, there is the Chosen of Valhalla level, where you get all of that stuff. Plus, in your first month as a Chosen of Valhalla member, you get a free t-shirt, your choice, ship it anywhere in the world, and also you get to once a month be featured on the OMB Reviews channel, and you get to talk with me. We usually chill out for 3 to 4 hours, and I ask everyone what they've been watching, what they want to talk about, what they want to promote, and it's always a really good time. And so if that sounds interesting to you, please consider joining. That is going to be on Subscribe Star and on Patreon only, as Locals is just the Keeper of the Bifrost level. But anyway, thank you all very much for your time, for your support, and for listening to this shout out video. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.